Welcome to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, speaking to you from New York City on this, the 23rd day of March, 2021. We do want to thank all of you for listening to this show and making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel. Also would like to encourage you to continue sending along any comments you have about this show, positive, negative, or anything else you have to say. We're always happy to hear from you. We do want to thank our sponsors for making this show economically viable. Our sponsors for today's show, Novo Resources, Sitka Gold Corp., El Oro Resources, Irving Resources, Hannon Metals, Fury Gold Mines, Great Bear Resources, Lion One Metals, SK Mining Corp., and Firefox Gold. I've titled today's show, Interest Rates Amid Out-of-Control Spending. John Rubino, Dr. Quinton Hennigh, and Corwin Coe are return guests this week. As hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants swarm over the U.S. southern borders from all over the world, Democrats can't wait to give them free stuff in exchange for votes. It's as if money grows on trees, and it's understandable that socialists think it does, because as an empire that has been able to create money out of thin air and use it to fund government giveaways, ever since President Nixon detached gold from money, the government has become like a god to socialists with unending gifts to hand out. But for people who think just a little beneath the surface, the ability for the U.S. or any country for that matter, to continue to print money and call it wealth just doesn't compute. In fact, in our fiat system, unlike a gold or silver-backed currency system, money is really a liability-based money rather than an asset-based money. So behind each dollar is a dollar of debt. And thanks to the trashing of honest money and the destruction of free market economics, the debt is growing much more rapidly than the income created to service that debt. As such, our dollar-based monetary system is most certainly destined to break down at some point, and some people think that may not be far away. Interest rates are starting to rise despite the Fed's desire to hold them down. Might this be a sign that underlying inflationary pressures are starting to drive rates higher, such that the Fed is losing control of those rates? Will the Fed be forced to print more and more money faster and faster, leading to a lack of faith in our currency with the result of a hyperinflationary event? Or might the Fed be unable to suppress rising rates, which then leads to a debt implosion and a deflationary depression that could lead to a 1930s event looking like a walk in the park, by comparison to the 1930s, I should say. Those topics and more will be asked of John Rubino in the second half of today's show. Right after our first commercial break, Corwin Coe will be with me to talk about Sitka Gold's progress on its Alpha project located on Nevada's Cortez Trend, where the company just reported intersecting favorable Carlin-style rocks. As well, Sitka has had some early exploration success in the Yukon, and we'll look to Corwin Coe to update us on that. But right now, I'm happy to tell you that Dr. Quinton Hennigh is with me to give us an update on the latest news from Novo Resources, which company has just started gold production on its Beaton's Creek project in Australia. That company also holds a lot of other things going on with Novo that I think a lot of investors aren't aware of, and that's why I was really pleased that Quinton Hennigh could come on today to talk about some of them. And so thanks very much, Quinton, for being with us today.
Always a pleasure, Jay.
You know, it really is good to talk to you. And today I want to just have you explain some of the other things, the investments that Novo's involved in. For example, yesterday you put out a story. You're opting into a 50% joint venture interest. I think you can kick it up to 70% at some point on a project in Australia called the Queen's Gold Project. You're earning that interest from Kalamazoo Resources, a public company in Australia. I want to ask you about that. And then you have 15 million shares of Newfound Gold, now worth around $60 million in U.S. money. This is a stock that I follow very closely, very happy to own it, have done well with it, and so have my subscribers. Would like you to comment on that as well, what you see there. And then just this morning, I see that you've also talked about another investment that you have in Australia, on another project. I think the Blue Spec project you have sold off to another company in exchange for shares and an equity interest in that company. So maybe, Quinton, you could just talk about those those investments and how they fit into the overall scheme of things for Novo, because I know you're really focused on gold production there at Beaton's Creek with the potential for massive gold production over the next number of years.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you what, I'll give you an update on each one of those, but I'll also take a couple minutes at the end to talk about what's going on at site. I'm sure people are anxious to hear things. It's getting close to the end of the month, and we anticipate an update. I told the guys, keep your head down, get everything going, focus on the prize, and then be prepared to give us an update towards the end of the month, early April, and that's what they're doing. All right, so let's start with the Queens project, which is from Kalamazoo. Now, this is over in the Victorian Goldfield, so it's kind of the polar opposite end of the country from the Pilbara. It's in southeast Australia. Mm-hmm. But this is an area where there are some prolific gold deposits, notably the Fosterville deposit. And the Queens project is really part of a two property position that we have that together control what's called the Malmesbury District. Okay, so we struck an option and then an earn-in agreement with GBM Resources about a year ago. I think it was a year ago this month, actually. And we decided to exercise that option, so that secured one piece of ground. We then effectively replicated that agreement with Kalamazoo for the Queens project, and now we've exercised that option. So combined, we now control this Malmesbury District. What makes it very, very special for us and for its prospectivity is its position. It is in the Bendigo zone, which is part of the same. It's basically the same belt of rocks as Fosterville. We're due south of Fosterville on the eastern side of the Bendigo zone, and this is an area where you would expect to find Fosterville type deposits. These high level epizonal deposits, epizonal orogenic deposits that can be very high grade. Malmesbury has historic production, about 90,000 ounces plus or minus, at about an ounce per ton. So we know it's a high grade camp. Our team has been out exploring the combined properties over the past couple of months. Things have loosened up a bit, so they're out actively exploring. And based on what we've seen today, we decided to exercise this option. We feel that this is going to be a very high-quality asset for us to explore it. We do think it has Fosterville-like potential, and we're delighted to control the whole district by this acquisition. So that's one. Then let's just kind of tick off the list. You brought up Newfound next, I believe, in your
yes.
Newfound, we have a 15 million share position. We got that, again, back about this time during the start of the coronavirus, believe it or not. We did a share swap. We took a position in them. They went public in August. There was a time when the gold price had peaked and started coming off. Their price at the initial day of trading, I think it was $1.30 or thereabouts. Today it's $5. Why is it so much higher today? Well, everybody has been watching this story unfold, and I can tell it over and over again. It is very much like Fosterville. It's a similar style of geology. It's a very high-grade orogenic system, and as drilling has progressed, you just see a steady stream of very, very high-grade results over substantial width. So if you do gram meter, take the gram per ton times a meter. And you get a sense of the quality of these drill intercepts. They are phenomenal. We're talking hundreds of grams per ton, even plus 1,000 grams per ton meter in many cases. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, they've now drilled this thing, and with confidence, down to 300 meters down plunge, or close to it. The deposit's wide open. They've also announced results at Lotto that are phenomenal. So it looks like we have two high-grade zones that are taking shape, both at Keats and Lotto.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
This one worked out phenomenally. Okay, so we're looking at on the cusp of the next Fosterville here, albeit in Newfoundland. Okay, so it's a wonderful position for us. It gives us a strategic place. Obviously, it's worth a lot of value to us, but it's also a strategic position as I see it. Okay, so there's that. Now let's move to Calidus.
Yes.
Okay, we sold the Blue Spec property back around shortly after we announced the acquisition of Millennium. Why did we sell it? Well, this particular part of the Blue Spec property has the deeper underground resources. These are metallurgically not compatible with the Millennium Mill, and Calidus, who are building a mill that would be suitable for this, expressed interest. We agreed to sell this for just under $20 million. To move forward, they were due to pay this off quicker than's happened. The gold market softened a bit, okay, but we reached agreement with them recently to take a large block of shares as part of this sale. For us, we see having a near neighbor like this. I mean, they're only a few tens of kilometers away from us. That's going into production only builds a better story in this region. So taking shares is not a high risk for us, and quite frankly, it gives us good exposure to the next mine in the Pilbara region. Okay, so again, we're getting value. We're maximizing value out of assets, and also taking strategic positions in the process. Okay, so all of those are parts of building a bigger company, and that will happen over time. But right now, let me give you just a 2-minute update about what's going on. Okay, the team poured the first gold bar in the latter half of February. I think it was February 16th or 17th. It's been about 4 or 5 weeks now. I know people get antsy, but I'm giving the guys a great deal of space to get things going. They've done a phenomenal job. They've got a lot of the mechanics worked out around grade control and mining and milling. The mill's performing great. It's they're seeing exceptional recoveries. They're seeing the high gravity gold. We will be able to talk about a lot of this stuff here shortly. I would say the update should be maybe right around the end of the month or early April. Also with that, we're going to have a PEA. Okay, the PEA, the data for that is actually being collected like from a real-time experience here. So it's a circular process to write this PEA, but we will have that shortly too. The important thing for people to understand is that we have a very strategic mine plan. Part of that involves mining the back area. We call it the Edwards Block. It's kind of the back. It's a lower grade area. Okay, so for about maybe 3.5 or 4 weeks, they mined a lower grade area because that area is now the designated waste depository. Okay, so when they mined that, we'll have lower grades there. I don't want people to get their hopes up that everything's going to be high grade from day one. That's not how it works. We've pre-stripped that, or we pre-mined that rather. Now we're starting to deposit the waste from areas that we're stripping, which are higher grade. Okay, so we now have the ability to dispose of the waste back in that area, and we're opening up some of the higher grade panels now. So going forward, you'll see just the way to put it is a gradual picture come together of mining gradually higher grade material, ramping up the mill. They started at, say, 2,500 tons a day, then ramped up to 3, then now they're at 4, et cetera. Like they're bumping up the capacity at the mill. Trucking, there's like trucking back, right back and forth. They're cutting their teeth and they're getting the routine down. There's a lot of moving parts. It takes about 2-3 months for a mine to kind of get all of its, logistics worked out, but the guys are doing a fantastic job, and I would say give us about a week, and I can talk more about the details as they come in.
Well, certainly looking forward to that. Once I think the markets start to understand the economics of this prospect, I think I believe people are going to be pleased, but we'll have to wait and see. And maybe just with 30 seconds, Quinton, if you could just comment on, you have these other valuable investments. Now, do you see them as possibly monetizing them sometime in the future, or are you just sort of waiting and seeing how they develop? And if you don't need to monetize, if you're well funded, as I understand it, and especially if your production starts to kick in cash flow, you probably don't need to sell those valuable assets unless you think they should be sold.
Like I said, we see them as strategic positions in each and every case. We don't have anticipation to monetizing anytime soon, okay? But, they are possibly monetizable, which is a big benefit. Because think about it. I mean, we have a nice bank account right now. I think we'll be fine. But think about, catastrophes like COVID last year or something. You never know what pops up in the world, or even with mining. Let's say a cyclone roared through or something, bad things happen, but we have that. I think of it more as an insurance policy, if anything. because it's a strategic stake, just like I described. Why would we invest in Newfound? Because I really think that's going to be the next Fosterville.
That's incredible.
Was it? Did I say, I want to be able to sell that in 12 months? No, that's not why we took the position.
All right. Very good. Well, it's really exciting, and we'll certainly be waiting for some operating statistics. That's really what I'm looking forward to right now. Quinton, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Absolutely.